There are moments when an innovation is more than an invention. It becomes a question. What a country can add to the future? What can science become when it leaves the laboratory? And how far a small team can go if the idea is strong enough? Today, the world is searching for better batteries. Not only smaller batteries, not only cheaper batteries, but safer, cleaner, and higher performance batteries that can support electric mobility, renewable energy, and the next generation of industrial systems. This is the story of ONLi, a Hungarian anode technology, a scientific achievement, and a new industrial opportunity. For many years, batteries were mostly consumer products. They powered our laptops, mobile phones, small devices. Very important, yes, but not yet strategic. This has changed. Today, batteries are part of national infrastructure. They are part of industrial competitiveness of every country. They are part of our energy security. Without energy storage, renewable energy cannot reach its full potential. Without better batteries, electric mobility remains limited. Without control over key battery technologies, countries become more and more dependent on decisions made somewhere else. This is why energy storage is no longer a technological question. It is also a question of industrial independence. The countries and companies that shape battery technology today will shape the energy systems of tomorrow. In order to understand ONLi technology, we will need to look inside a single battery cell. A lithium-ion battery cell has very few essential parts. There is the cathode, there is an anode, and there is in between them a separator to separate them. That separator is usually filled with an electrolyte that allows the ions to move back and forth between the anode and the cathode. And this is housed in a housing that keeps the structure tight together. During charging and discharging, as I mentioned before, lithium ions move back and forth between the cathode and anode, inserting and deserting the electrode itself. This back and forth movement is what allows the cell to store and release the electrical energy reversibly. For decades, the anode has been made from a graphite powder, and that powder was good enough for most of the application. The powder is mixed with binders and solvent, creating a slurry. That slurry is basically coated on a copper foil, which acts as a current collector. Then it is dried, compacted, and processed further. This method works. It built today's industrial battery systems. But, most crucially, it has limits. It relies on powder-based technologies. It relies on the binders. It relies the solvent-based processing, which is sometimes toxic and very cumbersome. It creates a structure that is not truly metallic, not fully continuous, because how the powder connects to each other. And it is not ideal for heat and electrical conduction. ONLi technology begins by asking a different question. What if the anode part of the cell did not have to be made this way? For a long time, most attention in the battery development focused on the cathode. It was understandable. Around 2010, cathodes were often the limiting factor in energy density. The graphite anode was reliable, mature, and widely used. So the world improved the cathodes. It focused on cathodes. And as cathode technologies advanced, the anode became more and more important again. Graphite supply chains become more exposed. Silicon, which is an alternative anode material, promised higher capacity, but brought manufacturing and durability challenges. And all of this on powder-based electrode structures remained complex to produce. Anode was no longer a quiet component. It became one of the key to performance, fast charging, lifetime, safety and cost, and more importantly, manufacturability at scale. This is where our work began. Not by trying to slightly improve the graphite, not by just adding a little bit more silicon, not just by optimizing the binder or the solvent structure. It is by rethinking the anode itself. ONLi is the result of more than a decade of research and development. It did not happen overnight. There were samples that looked promising and then failed. There were prototypes that worked in one condition, but not in the other. There were more questions of structure, adhesion, conductivity, morphology, or repeatability than we can count. But each failure made the system clearer. What emerged was not a powder-based electrode. It was a new structural principle. ONLi is the first solid, continuous metal alloy anode layer created by electrochemical deposition on copper foil. The active material is not glued to the current collector. It is not held together by a bonder. It is not fragile powder coating. It forms a direct metallic relationship with the copper substrate. This is the scientific achievement. A different material, a different morphology, and a completely different manufacturing logic. And because of that, a different performance window. The use of tin is especially important. The tin itself is not new. Humanity has known tin for thousands of years. It is familiar from alloys and coating and soldering and all other industrial applications. But in batteries, tin has a very different potential. Tin can store charge through alloying reaction. In lithium-ion systems, it can form lithium-tin phases. In sodium-ion system, it can form sodium-tin phases. And the novelty of ONLi is not simply just we use tin. The novelty is how the tin is used. It's not a loose powder, it's not a conventional slurry, it's not something we mix, it's not an additive to existing system. It's a completely new phenomenon. ONLi uses a tin-based metal alloy layer by layer, engineered as a thin, continuous, and a functional anode surface. This is what makes our approach different. It takes the electrochemical promise of tin and places it into a structure specially designed for industrial manufacturing and scalability. A breakthrough of material science is not enough. For battery industry, the real question is always the same. Can it be produced at large? Can it be repeated? Can it be scaled to a size of gigafactories? Can it enter existing manufacturing ecosystem without forcing the entire industries to start again? This is why ONLi was developed not only as a material, but a manufacturing technology hand in hand. The process is designed for roll-to-roll production. The copper foil is unwound, and the metal alloy anode is formed by this electrochemical deposition. The finished anode is immediately rewound as a continuous product. No graphite powder, no silicon powder, no binder, no solvent-based slurry, no conventional powder compaction. The result is a cleaner and a more direct production route. The active material layer is extremely thin, in the range of a few micrometers, and it is designed for integration into existing lithium-ion cell production lines. That compatibility matters, because the goal is not only to invent, the goal is to industrialize. The structure of ONLi creates several advantages at once. First and foremost, energy density. Official ONLi materials present up to 70% higher volumetric energy density at the cell level, and up to 1.8 times higher gravimetric capacity at the material level. This is huge. In a familiar 21700 cell format, the ONLi describes an increase from 5 ampere-hour to 7.8 ampere-hours in exactly the same format in a 21700 cell. In practical terms, this means more charge is stored at the same physical space. For electric vehicles, that can mean a longer range, or the same range with a smaller battery pack. For consumer electronics, it can mean lighter devices and a longer use between charges. For grid-scale storage, it can mean a more compact system with better performance. Second, conductivity. Because ONLi is a fully metallic, homogeneous structure, both thermal and electrical conductivity are significantly improved compared with powder-based electrodes. That matters for fast charging. It matters for safety. And it also matters for lifetime. Heat is one of the great enemies of batteries. That is why we see so many thermal management strategies in the industry. If heat is not managed well, cells age faster. Performance drops. Safety margins narrows. A better conducting anode gives engineers a stronger foundation for safer, faster, and more durable batteries. ONLi is not only a laboratory idea. A modular production system has already been built. It performs the core roll-to-roll process, unwinding the copper foil, creating the metal layer by electrochemical deposition, and rewinding the finished anode. The technology currently is at TRL 6, which is ready for semi-industrial implementation, with an independent validation referenced by Universal and ID.TechX. This is an important stage. It means that the question is no longer only scientific. The question now becomes industrial. How do we ramp up? How do we produce repeatably? How do we qualify the product with cell manufacturers? And how do we build a Hungarian production base that can serve global markets? We have a proposed next step of a Hungarian pilot plant with 100 tons of annual capacity. The current ramp-up concept is to begin design and construction in late 2026, with a possible ramp-up from late 2027. This will bridge the invention to industrial reality. From small samples to long coils, from coins to large format cells, and those cells to market reach. The path forward has several possible forms. A strong intellectual property portfolio, strategic alliances with high-volume battery manufacturers, joint product development with cell producers, and commercial partnership for manufacturing and sales. But our primary goal is clear: to deliver only anode coils as finished industrial product, to become a technology supplier in the global battery value chain, to build production capability in Hungary, and to prove that a Hungarian scientific breakthrough can move from the laboratory bench to a global industrial application. This is why we are inviting partners: industrial partners, cell manufacturers, automotive companies, energy storage companies, investors and public decision makers who understand that the next generation of energy storage will not be built by scaling old solutions alone. It will be built by changing the foundations. ONLi is not just a new anode. It is a new way to think about the anode. It is tin-based, metallic, very thin, clean, environmentally friendly, and scalable. This scientific achievement is ready for industrial ramp-up. This technology is built for a global impact. And this time, the story does not have to leave Hungary or Europe to become a world class. It begins here, it grows here, and it will reach the world from here.